The stars are right, and that means it's time for another episode of The Whisperer in Darkness. I'm your host, the Man from Leng. Thank you very much for joining me today. On this episode, we are kicking off part 1B of the Dream Eaters campaign. That's right, we are taking on Waking Nightmare. This is a tough one. I have played it several times, and it is always a nail-biter. So I am looking forward to bringing you this playthrough today. And then we will be continuing with the two campaigns. We have Luke Robinson, as you may remember. He is running through the Dream World. So he will be playing the Search for Gaddath next. And then we have Patrice Hathaway is taking on the Waking World. So she will be taking on Waking Nightmare, followed by 1,000 Shapes of Horror. I played a test game with Patrice just to familiarize myself with her abilities, and she is an interesting investigator, that's for sure, to play. So I'm looking forward to bringing you this game today. Before we get started, I'd like to thank the patrons of the channel for their tremendous support. These people are absolutely fantastic and have gone above and beyond to bring you content like these playthroughs, as well as the reviews and previews and whatnot that I do for the Arkham Horror LCG. If you would like to become a patron and support the channel and see your name up on this board with all these other fine folks, head over to patreon.com, pick a tier of your choice, and sign up and claim your rewards. That would be awesome, and you would have my eternal gratitude. So without further ado, we are going to jump into the Patrice Hathaway deck that we are going to be playing for this half of the Dream Eaters campaign. This is a deck built by Black Horror over on Arkham DB, and it is it uses St. Hubert's Key, Arcane Research, and the Desperate skills to boost Patrice's willpower and intellect to pass skill tests. I've always found the Desperate skill archetype a little tricky to pull off because it really depends on you getting out that St. Hubert's Key early in order to be able to use all those fantastic skill cards with those 4 skill icons on them. So I'm hoping to be able to do that in this game. One of the advantages that Patrice has is that she does replace her hand every... basically replaces her hand every upkeep phase. So it's only a matter of time before you draw the St. Hubert's Key. You just need to make sure that you've got the resources to play it once you see it in your hand. To discover clues, we have copies of Sixth Sense and Winging It to help us discover clues. We've got Peter Sylvester in there to help us with horror management. Of course, by playing Arcane Research, you are taking 2 horror right off the bat. And so you start the game with 2 horror, and then St. Hubert's Key reduces your sanity. So between the 2 of those, we can get Patrice in desperate range very quickly, but then we need Peter to come along fairly quickly after that in order to ride that line between having just enough sanity and not too much. We've also got Miss Sevrillier in there in case Patrice needs to do some evasion with her willpower. We have quite a number of events. We've got Deny Existence, of course. That's a fantastic mystic event that can help us heal some of that horror if necessary, as well as prevent all sorts of terrible effects from happening to us. We've got Impromptu Barrier and Improvised Weapon. Of course, those are the cards from the Forgotten Age cycle that you can play from your discard pile. They're very nice in an investigator like Patrice, who has a very large discard pile a lot of the time. We've got Ward of Protection, which is a little harder to play in Patrice because you really only have a very small window of opportunity in which to play it, but the ability to cancel some of the treachery cards in this particular scenario is very valuable. Sticky webs, for one, can be a real pain in the ass if you get that locks down a location. So being able to ward that would be very helpful. We are also playing Winging It in there, another one of those, one of the events that you can play from your discard pile to help you discover clues. There are 25 skills in this deck. We've got Defiance and all the desperate skills. Desperate Search, Reckless Assault, Run for Your Life, Say Your Prayers, etc., etc. We've got a copy of Last Chance in there. That'll give us a bunch of wild skill icons if we can reduce our hand size, as well as a bunch of the normal skills from the core set. Manual Dexterity, Overpower Perception, Guts, etc., etc. So a lot of skills that encourages Patrice to dump her hand, dump as many cards as she can each turn. There's really no sense in holding them back, because unless you're playing them, you are going to lose them during your during the upkeep phase. So you might as well put them to good use while you've got them. Of course, we also have Patrice's her signature asset, her violin, as well as her enemy, the Watcher from Another Dimension. That isn't too bad until you have to fight. It sits in your hand, and once if your deck runs out of cards, then it becomes a real issue. Otherwise, it just takes up one of your card slots in your hand until you defeat it. In my test game, it proved not too difficult to deal with. I managed to pull an improvised weapon and a Reckless Assault, and that was more than enough to dispatch it. So hopefully we will have the same luck in this game. Here is a summary of the campaign so far. Not much to talk about. I have only played this scenario by convincing Dr. Maheswaran to stay with the patients and keep them safe. So I always have her stay with the patients. I'm not sure if that's the best idea. This scenario can be very difficult in my experience, and so maybe I'm playing it on hard mode. I don't know, but I prefer just to go without her and have her look after the patient, who is Randolph Carter. So our goal in this will be to find Randolph Carter, manage to either clear all of the infected locations or get out of the and then hopefully either clear all of the infected locations, which is one path to victory, or simply resigning and getting out, the old resigning and just leaving St. Mary's Hospital. We are set up and ready to go in Octagon. Hello everybody, glad you could make it today for this this game. I've been looking forward to bringing you this game for quite a while, and I have a little bit of extra time this month, so I'm hoping to catch up on a lot of these playthroughs that I have been very lazy at getting to. This is one of my new favorite scenarios, I think. It's a very difficult scenario. It can be quite challenging to beat it, because you've got to deal with swarms of spiders. This is definitely not a scenario for arachnophobes out there. You've got to deal with the infested locations, which spread throughout the game. And then you've also got to deal with suspicious orderlies and whatnot. And there are some pretty big enemies in the encounter deck. The thing about it is you keep adding to the encounter deck, so it does get watered down a little bit, and you don't end up drawing a lot of, seeing a lot of those in my experience. Like, I know there's I believe a spider from Leng in the encounter deck. I've never seen that card yet, so hopefully we will not see it today. We are starting off here with our 4 locations. Patrice starts off here at the waiting room of St. Mary's Hospital. It's a 3 shroud location with 1 clue, and it has, while waiting room is not infested, it gains action resign. You flee the hospital, leaving your companions behind. It is connected to the records office, the emergency room, and the experimental therapies ward. And then later, as the scenario goes on, we will be going through the experimental therapies ward to the stairwell, and then to the trying to find the room that Randolph Carter is in. So the scenario plays initially a little bit like the one from the Dunwich Legacy. Its name escapes me now. I've played it so many times I should know it off by heart. But when you're in the Gangsters Club. So it plays a little bit like that at the beginning, and then towards the end you have to try to clear the infested locations and try to carve a path back to the waiting room so you can either resign or hopefully clear all those locations and get a good result. We are, Agenda 1A is Halls of St. Mary's. A heavy, ominous feeling haunts you as you explore St. Mary's Hospital. Its halls are eerily dark and empty of everything but the occasional orderly making the late-night rounds. Lights flicker and shadows seem to dart from corner to corner. The hospital's maze of corridors has begun to take on an almost dreamlike haziness. You notice yet another spider crawling up your leg and brush it away, wondering what is causing them to appear so often. And this has a doom threshold of 2, so very quick. Not much time before this, before you are advancing to Agenda 1B. Act 1A is looking for answers. Something is wrong with your companions, and while medical science has come far, it can't account for what has happened to them. You've decided to take it upon yourself to figure out what is wrong and set things right. Judging by the blood on the table there, as well as the doctor, something has definitely gone horribly wrong in St. Mary's. We will need 4 clues per investigator to advance the act, so we need 4 clues. Our first clue here is at a 3 shroud location, and several of the other locations have high shroud as average to above average shroud, I'd say. So gathering those clues can be a little tricky for an investigator like Patrice, who really needs to get once she can get set up, she's fine, but it's just getting that far that's the issue. We are playing Waking Nightmare on standard difficulty. The skulls are -1, -3 instead if you were engaged with a staff enemy. We have a couple of staff enemies here that are set aside. There are suspicious orderlies in the encounter deck, and they can be replaced by these corrupted orderlies, which are a real pain in the butt. The suspicious orderlies don't really do anything. They just block you from doing stuff, which is really a pain. We've got the cultist, which is reveal another token. If you fail and it is agenda 2 or 3, make an infestation test. We'll talk about those in a minute. And the elder sign, or not the elder sign, but the elder thing, of which there are 2 in the deck, is -X. X is the number of infested locations. So at the beginning of the scenario, this is a cakewalk. But towards the end, when you have 5 or 6 infested locations on the table, pulling this is almost equivalent to an auto fail. And there are 2 of them in the deck, so 2 of them in the chaos bag. So that's almost basically 3 auto fails that you're dealing with at that point. So one of the mechanics of this scenario is the infestation test. And it is based on this card here. The infestation begins, so we place 1 damage token on the location with the most clues, the 2 locations with the most clues if there are 3 or 4 investigators in the game. Then for the remainder of the scenario, damage tokens on locations represent the spreading infestation. Each location with a damage token on it is an infested location. Then we create a separate chaos bag, or not really a chaos bag, just a separate bag consisting of the following tokens: a skull, 4 tablets, and 2 cultists. And this is the infestation bag, and these are infestation tokens. They are not chaos tokens. And then certain abilities instruct us to draw from this special bag and will infest locations. So you can flip over this card and see the results of an infestation test. The skull is bad news because you set the token aside, you search the encounter deck and discard pile for a spider enemy and spawn it at an infested location nearest to any investigator. So if you draw too many skulls during infestation tests, you end up with spiders galore. You probably know, if you've played this scenario, you know the spiders are swarming too. So you're actually getting 3 enemies every time you pull that skull. The tablets are the safe token. You get to just set those aside with no effect. And the cultist is an interesting token. It gets set aside, but you choose a location connected to an infested location, and that location becomes infested. And then once you've pulled the 2 cultist tokens that have been set aside, you return all of them to the tokens to the infestation bag. So we will be dealing with that at some point. I believe once we advance to Agenda 1B, the infestation bag becomes a thing. Now, I have a chaos bag, and I have this set aside over here in the right-hand corner, just a deck that contains the tokens for the infestation bag, and I'll be shuffling those up and drawing from them as need be. So we'll open that as well, so we have a place to discard those tokens as necessary. I think we are set up and ready to go. I'm just going to have a quick drink here before we get started. Hopefully I can keep the bronchitis at bay somewhat, and we can have a good game here. We have to draw a weakness, so let's do that now. We'll shuffle up our weaknesses, and our weakness for this campaign is going to be internal injury. Put it into play in your threat area. At the end of your turn, take a direct damage, 2 actions to discard internal injury. Interesting, that was the weakness that I had during my test game as well. So I am quite familiar with its effect. So we are ready to draw our opening hand. Let's see how we do for Patrice. We get a Reckless Assault, a Manual Dexterity, a Sixth Sense, another Reckless Assault, and a Defiance. I do not like this hand. We want St. Hubert's. The Sixth Sense is good. That is our key to investigating. But we do want to try to get St. Hubert's key sooner than later. So we're going to mulligan 4, and we will draw 4 more. We get a Prophecy, another Sixth Sense, an Unexpected Courage, and a Guts. So we will be going, I guess we're playing our Sixth Sense right off the bat. And that will be our key to investigating here as we continue. So only 1 asset to play this round. There are a lot of moving parts in this scenario between just placing Doom and then making infestation tests. So my apologies ahead of time if I screw something up. There is quite a bit to keep track of. That's one of the main reasons I played a test game last night, just to make sure that I had the flow of play down, because this one there's a lot to keep track of. So here we go. Let's give this a shot. We want to get down our Sixth Sense as our first action. So we will pay the 3 resources for that. And drop that down. We've got 2 actions remaining, so what we will do, we might as well investigate here. Now we can investigate with our Sixth Sense, so we can use our willpower instead of our intellect. So we're going with 4 versus 3. We might as well commit... do I want to commit the Guts? Guts would draw me a card, but then I wouldn't be in a position to really use said card. I think I'm going to commit the Unexpected Courage instead. So we will go 6 versus 3 on the first investigate test, and the Chaos Bag says Elder Sign, so that is very good for Patrice, not very good for her on the first turn of the game, since it's a +1, and we can shuffle all but 1 card of our discard pile back into our deck, so that doesn't do us any good. I love those later in the scenario, but we get one right off the bat. So we will gain this clue. So far so good. We now can move. No sense in staying here. So let's move up to the records room and see if we can't get some clues here as well. The records office is a 3-shroud location with 2 clues, and you may take 3 actions if you are not engaged with any enemies. 1 at a time, take 4 basic investigate actions. It's worth 2 victory points. The basic investigate actions, basic fight actions, basic evade actions, etc. has been is sort of a sub-theme of this particular cycle. There's that whole batch of survivor purchases, the 1 experience point cards that also reference basic fight, evade, and investigate actions. So we get off to a good start. We've got our main means of investigating down, and we are at the records office. So we will go to the enemy phase. I'm going to discard my cards during the enemy phase just so I can keep track of what I have in my hand and what I don't before I go to upkeep, because as soon as I hit this button, I add a card. So we get a Say Your Prayers, a Fearless, an Overpower, a Run for Your Life, and a Ward of Protection. So no St. Hubert's Key there. We've got 2 of the reckless skills that we can't use, a Fearless and a Ward of Protection. So maybe we ward the first card that comes out. Who knows? We've got a Fearless that we can use to boost our... we can use to boost an Investigate test. Say Your Prayers would obviously be nice for that, but we are not in desperate range yet. So let's go to our first Mythos phase. We will draw, as our first card, we draw Glimpse of the Underworld. Put Glimpse of the Underworld into play in your threat area when you would take damage and or horror, take 1 additional damage or horror. Or we can use a free triggered ability to take 1 damage and horror to discard it. I think I'm just going to... well, do I ward that or not? Because ward's going to give me... Ward would give me a horror. Yeah, no, I might as well ward that just because I'm going to take... that gets us 1 closer, actually, to being in desperate range if we don't happen to draw the... St. Hubert's Key, and we take a horror and a damage. This way, we just take a horror. So we'll just get rid of that and continue on our way. We have our 3 actions. It's the investigation phase. We just want to grab these clues and keep on trucking. So speed is very important in this particular scenario because you do want to try to find Randolph Carter as quickly as you can. Then you've got to pass the chain test on him. I believe it's willpower 2 followed by intellect 2 that you've got to pass. And chain tests like that, the difficulty starts to nudge up the more of them you take. So we want to pass that and hopefully get back before too many locations get infested. So we're just going to probably spend this turn investigating. I could take 3 actions just to take 4 basic investigate actions, but I'm only investigating at 2 versus 3 that way, which is not a good deal. So we will use our 6th sense, and I think I'll commit this Fearless to the skill test to give us, we'll go 5 versus 3. Chaos Bag says -2, so the test is successful, so we will heal a horror. So we took 1 from the ward, and then we healed that away. But we do get a clue out of it, so that's good. The remaining cards in our hand are quite useless to us at the moment, so we will simply investigate again. This time we're just going 4 versus 3. Chaos Bag shines on us with a +1. Wow. if you've seen my playthroughs, I think it was my playthrough with Nate Lost in Time and Space Winslow. If you haven't checked that out, there is some... my luck is in full force there. You get to see me try to pass one combat test, and it does not go well. The Chaos Bag is being kind to me today. So let's move on. Now, do I want to move on here, or do I just want to... I kind of want to infect... If I'm going to infect a place, I'd sort of like to infect the records office. I guess I could infect the waiting room too. Yeah, no, I'm going to move. I'm not going to waste my action. I'm going to move. All right. So we jump to the upkeep phase. I need to discard these cards. We do get a Reckless Assault, so that's not going to help us. We get our Violin. So Patrice's Violin is, it's got a Willpower, Agility, and Wild icon, and it has a free triggered ability. Choose and discard a card from your hand and exhaust her Violin to choose an investigator at your location to either gain one resource or draw one card. So that might be worthwhile putting into play to help us draw into our St. Hubert's Key if we don't see it here. There's another copy of Fearless, a Manual Dexterity, and an Improvised Weapon. So an interesting hand here. I guess the Fearless is okay. Good for a willpower, another investigate test, I guess. So I think we'll play the Violin, and we'll go from there. So we are advancing this turn. So we flip this bad boy over. We are on Agenda 1B, Unsettling Developments. As you continue to explore the hospital, the oddities you have observed become more and more frequent. Thick, dark cobwebs now cover the corners of every room. Spiders crawl along the walls and ceilings, emerging from seemingly nowhere and vanishing just as quickly. It's not just your imagination. An infestation of spiders has taken root within the hospital. And not just any spiders. They are larger than average, with long, jagged, barbed legs and great hairy abdomens. It's funny they point out the abdomens as being particularly scary, but okay. Perhaps even more worrying is the complete lack of hospital staff roaming the halls. Aside from several wary and frightened orderlies, you see no other staff members, not even any nurses or doctors. Where has everyone gone? So we shuffle the set-aside Spiders encounter set and each set-aside copy of Outbreak into the encounter deck along with the encounter discard pile. So we go... So this goes into the pile. We've got 3 copies of Outbreak. Go into the encounter deck. Then we got to go find our Spiders. We've got which ones are they? No, that's the other set. So we've got Sickening Webs, Swarm of Spiders, of course. Swarm of Spiders, and another Sickening Webs, and I believe this bad boy, the Spider of Leng. What a guy. All right. I think that's all we've got. That's all we need to do there. So these all go into the encounter deck as well. And we will shuffle that up. So we've done that. Draw the set aside The Infestation Begins story card and resolve its text. So we place 1 damage token on the location with the most clues, the 2 locations. So we get to pick. I guess we'll pick the records room. Now, do we pick the records room or the waiting room? Because we could always infest the records room later. I'm never quite sure about the whole infestation strategy, what works best. But I feel like if we infest the waiting... No, because if we draw a bad infestation test, we get spiders sitting on our doorstep, and I don't want that. So let's put it in the records office. And... For the remainder of the scenario, damage tokens and locations represent infestations. Yes, yes, yes. Flip this card over and place it next to the reference deck. So we are ready to start doing infestation tests. We advance to Agenda 2A. The infestation spreads. A monstrous presence has infested St. Mary's. It lies inside the walls and watches you from all sides. In mere minutes, it has spun thick, sticky webbing throughout each of the rooms you visit. The lights are either flickering out or out across the hospital, and some of the more advanced medical machinery is broken and covered in cobwebs. So forced effect at the end of the Mythos phase, make an infestation test, and we have a doom threshold of 6 to worry about. So the infestation tests begin now. But we do have 30 cards in the encounter deck, so it's pretty beefy. It's a pretty thick, pretty large encounter deck as encounter decks go. It's certainly not... there are some that are much, much thinner than that. I believe Search for Gadath starts off with a very thin one. So let's see what we get as our encounter card. We draw Night Terrors. Put Night Terrors into play in your threat area. It says, after you fail a skill test result, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, draw each weakness revealed this way, and remove the other cards from the game. If Night Terrors is in your threat area, test 4 willpower. After this test ends, discard Night Terrors even if you fail. Okay, so as long as we test Night Terrors at some point, we can get rid of it. So we are currently 4 versus 4. I'm sort of if we go, we don't really want to heal any more horror. That's the trick. So now we have to do our first infestation test of the game. So here is our bag over here. We will shuffle this up and we get a skull. That is, set the token aside, search the encounter deck and discard pile for a spider enemy and spawn it at the infested location nearest any investigator. So yeah, that's a good thing that we dumped that token far away from us. So we will look at all these cards, and there is a spider. Now, the Swarm of Spiders has a fight of 1 health, and X evade. Creature spiders swarming 2, and X equals the number of Swarm of Spider enemies at this location, including swarm cards. So it's a 3. So we have to go get some swarm cards from us. So there's... I pushed the wrong button. So we know that the one of the swarm cards by accident, but that's fine. I'm not going to redo it. So we know our St. Hubert's Key ended up as a swarm card. That's unfortunate, but nothing we can do about that. So we'll send these to back, and that area is infested with 3 spiders. All right. So I think what we're going to do, we want to play the violin, because then we can discard some of these reckless skill cards that aren't doing us any good. So that will be our first action, I think. Let's advance to the investigation phase. So first action, we'll play the violin for 2. So we've got our violin in play. Now we might as well use this violin. Choose and discard 1 card from your hand and exhaust the violin to gain a resource or draw a card. Let's get rid of this Reckless Assault and draw a card. It is our weakness. Watcher from another dimension. He is 5 fight, 2 health, 5 evade, monster extra dimensional, peril hidden hunter, revelation. Secretly add this enemy to your hand. Don't tell anybody. You may find or evade this enemy while it. You may fight or evade this enemy while it is in your hand, as if it were at your location. If you succeed, discard it from your hand. If you fail, spawn it engaged with you. And it has the forced effect. When your deck runs out of cards, if this enemy is in your hand, it attacks you from your hand for 3 damage. So that is bad news once we run out of cards. We still have 27 cards in our deck, so that's a threat we can kick down the road a little ways. So now I sort of want to get rid of this Night Terrors because it's going to cause us to fail tests a lot. It's not going to cause us to fail tests, but we're going to lose cards from our deck if we start failing lots of tests. So if we fail this skill test, I would assume Nightfarer's triggers. After you fail a skill test, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, draw each weakness revealed but this way, and remove the other cards from the game. So we'd have to resolve the Night Terrors if we fail this test. I only have the Fearless, and that would take us out of desperate skill range if we heal. But 5 versus 4? What are our tokens like? Skulls are -1. And the Elder Things are -1 as well right now. So we could go 1 up and be okay. Let's do it. I'm going to commit this to it. We're going to go 5 versus 4 to get rid of Night Terrors. Chaos Bag says -4, of course. So we will fail that test. So the Night Terrors will trigger after this test ends. So because we failed a skill test, we have to draw the top 3 cards of our deck. So let's see what we get. We get a Run for Your Life, a Reckless Assault, and a Winging It. So no weaknesses. And we remove these other ones from the game. So we will dump these over here. And we will get rid of the Night Terrors. So not horrible. The Winging It is, I'd kind of like to have that, but so let's move here to the Emergency Therapies ward. It is a 4-shroud location with 2 clues, and it has the response: when you investigate Experimental Therapies ward, take 1 horror. Experimental Therapies ward gets -2 shroud for this investigation. So we could take a bunch of horror here to put us in desperate skill range, but I still like our odds of getting the St. Hubert's Key. We know one of them is under here, but we don't know where the other one is. So we'll have to see. So that's going to be our turn. During the enemy phase, we'll discard our improvised weapon. So we could use this improvised weapon to help us take down this guy. He would be a 4 fight, and we'd do an additional damage, but we need some more icons before we can do that. We're only 2 combat, so we'll need some extra icons to manage that task. We go to upkeep. We draw a Prophecy, another manual dexterity. There's a Last Chance and a Say Your Prayers. So no help there. Last Chance. The Prophecy is just a wild skill icon right now. So we could play Prophecy, then Last Chance. Last Chance would be like an Unexpected Courage. So we might be able to grab these 2 clues this turn. And then we would be able to advance the act because we have 3. It is turn 4, the Mythos phase. Our encounter card is going to be the Suspicious Orderly. He has no fight, no health, and two evade. He's a humanoid staff and a hunter. He cannot be suspicious orderly. Cannot be attacked. He cannot attack, be attacked, or be dealt damage. And while he is engaged with you, you cannot investigate. So we need to evade this chump. Good thing we've got a manual dexterity in our hand. So we need to do our test here, our infestation test. Shuffle this bag up, and we will draw. There is a tablet, so nothing happens. All right, so now we've got this orderly to deal with. I think I'm going to use the violin. We can get rid of this say your prayers. So we can... So just discard to gain a resource or draw a card. Let's gain a resource. Or, sorry, draw a card, I mean. There is a defiance, so we can use that as well to improve our odds of passing these invested. So what we're going to need to do here is evade this suspicious orderly and then investigate successfully twice so we can advance the act. So the defiance, before revealing chaos tokens for this test, choose one, ignore the effects of the chosen symbol. So yeah, I probably choose I'd choose the cultist, because then we can just ignore it and it's a blank token. But first we need to evade the suspicious orderly, so let's do that. We will take an action, we'll play our manual dexterity, and we will evade him. We are going 4 versus 2. Is that going to be enough? I think it's going to be enough. So we'll do 4 versus 2. Chaos Bag says skull. That is a... Oh, that's a -3. Because he's staff. Oh, jeez. So that's a fail. Ah, Pete's sakes. Okay, so... Let's take another action. Let's commit the prophecy and the defiance to go 4-2 again, and I'm going to call skull so we can ignore that. We can ignore skull this time. We're not going to fall for this again. Chaos Bag says -1, so we do succeed in evading this guy for a turn. Now we need this clue, so we're going to go use our last action to Sixth Sense. We're gaining 4 icons, so we are going 8 versus 4. Chaos Bag says +1, so we grab a clue. And that is all she wrote. So we can advance the act. So let's do that now. Whoops. We want to spend those. We will advance the act. So we put the set aside stairwell and basement door locations into play. We will shuffle those up. So we've got a couple basement doors to choose from and the stairwell. Yeah, this scenario is so well designed. It makes sense. Everything about it makes sense. It all fits together so nicely. So we've got the basement doors. What else do we have to do? Check the current agenda. If it is agenda 2 or 3, make an infestation test. So it is agenda 2, so we need to make another infestation test. And we draw another tablet. So that is that. And that will be our turn. So we are going to need to deal with this Watcher from another dimension here at some point. We're down to 19 cards, and we're going to run through those pretty quickly. So we are going to go to the enemy phase, which nothing happens, and then we go to upkeep, and our friend, the Suspicious Orderly, re-engages us. So while he is engaged with you, you cannot investigate, but we can do other things. So we can maybe find, what's his name? I think we need clues, though, to do that as well. So we need some cards. We got a Perception. There's Peter Sylvester. There's a Mists of Relay. And there's St. Hubert's Key. Wow. That's, wow. That's 3 really good assets, and I don't have the resources to play them all. I don't even have the resources to... Well, I've got the resources to play one of them, which I think obviously has to be the key. But the other 2 I'm going to have to let go. That is sad. That makes me sad. Okay. Well, not much we can do about that. Turn 5, it is the Mythos phase. Our encounter card is going to be Whispers of Hypnos. Peril, choose a skill. For the remainder of the round, each investigator gets -2 to the chosen skill. You cannot choose a skill that has already been chosen by a copy of this effect this round. This is pretty nasty, actually, in multiplayer. I find in solo it's pretty weak, so I'm not too worried about that. I think we'll just choose combat and be done with it. So we're at 0 combat this turn, but it's not like we were going to fight very much anyway. We need to do an infestation test again, which we draw. There is the cultist. So we have to choose a location connected to an infested location, and that becomes infested. So the waiting room becomes infested. Now we haven't. We've only drawn one of them so far. So there's one more cultist in the deck, and then we will be reshuffling that deck. So the question is, obviously we want the key. Man, that's hard to let Peter and the Mists go. But the key turns on all of our skill cards and we need a reckless assault if we're going to kill the Watcher from another dimension. So I think we bite the bullet and play the key. So our willpower now goes up to 5. And our intellect goes up to 3. And we have -2 sanity, so we're at 5. And we have 2, so we are at that 3 sanity threshold for the desperate skills. So the desperate skills are now turned on. The question is, do we evade this guy and then try to grab this other clue? We're going to need a clue, so I think we do that. So let's go... is it worthwhile using the violin? If we violin, say, the perception, then we can commit Peter to the investigate. Okay, we'll violin the perception. We get a desperate search instead. Okay, well, that's kind of interesting, because then we're at 6 versus 4 either way. Alright, so we're going to commit the mists. Commit the mists, so we're going 3 versus 2. That's not great, but that's all we can do, unfortunately. 3 versus 2. Chaos Bag gives us the -4 again, so that is going to be a failure. So we cannot investigate this location. Do we move on? I think we move on. We don't really have the cards to get rid of him. So let's go to the stairwell. Stairwell 3 shroud location with 1 clue. After you enter stairwell from a non-basement location, move to a basement location, then test 4 agility. If you fail, take 2 damage. And after the stairwell becomes infested, you make an infestation test. So we can, right now we could trigger the response to move to a location, but more than likely we take 2 damage. Now, is that worth it? What do we have in our discard pile? We've got the improvised weapon. There's a reckless assault. I think we lost a reckless assault too, though, didn't we? It was placed out of play. Yes, indeed. So we have no reckless assaults. What about overpowers? Do we have 1 overpower? We do have an overpower left. Okay. So we can't investigate with this chump here. Oh, we have to advance to... Forgot Act 2A. Search for the patient. You need to learn where this mysterious patient is being kept. If you can find them and speak to them, perhaps they can provide some answers about what is happening to your friends. The objective is, if an investigator controls Randolph Carter, advance. So we will need to find Randolph Carter, and but I think we need a clue to do it, which means we need to lose this suspicious orderly for a turn. I guess that's going to do it. Not much else we can do. So we go to the enemy phase. We'll ditch these cards. And we will draw a bunch more. There is a perception. We get a ward of protection. We get another Peter. And we get another Mists. Oh, jeez. So Peter and Mists come up twice in a row. Peter would be awfully nice. But the Mists is better for evading, to be honest. The Mists were evading with a 5. So I think we play the Mists. I think we do that. Okay. Turn 6, we go to the Mythos phase. Our encounter card is another glimpse of the underworld. So when you would take a damage or under horror, take an additional damage. So we can take a damage and a horror to discard this card. So I can't ward that and play. So let's put that there. Infestation test. Probably going to be reshuffling here, but we'll see. We get a tablet, so nothing happens. All right. So what we're going to do, I think we use the violin to pitch the perception to gain a resource. Then we can play the Mists So that gets us 4 charges. Now we can use those charges to evade this guy. And hopefully grab this clue. So let's attempt to evade the suspicious orderly. Now, do I do it here or do I... 3, it'd be 6 versus 3. I like those 7 versus 3. I like those odds. So we'll spend a charge from mists, and we will go 5 versus 2 on the evade. 5 versus 2. Chaos Bag says -2, so he is evaded. Now we can investigate this location, and I will dump my hand to it. And that will put us at 5, 6, 7 versus 3. Chaos Bag gives us one of those cultists. That's reveal another token, and if we fail, we have to take an infestation test. Let's look at the top one and see how we do here. It's a -1, so we do pass. So we managed to grab this clue. All right, so these are gone. And that will be our turn. And yeah, okay. We go to the enemy phase, nothing happens. We go to upkeep. We draw a desperate search. The suspicious orderly is back. We get deny existence, winging it, and an unexpected courage. I think this is the turn we try to deal with the Watcher. I know I've got one more overpower. Let me see here. I'm pretty sure there's only one in the pile. Okay. So if I commit deny existence and unexpected, I can probably dump the winging it with the violin to draw a card, see if it's an overpower. If it's an overpower, we deny existence, overpower, unexpected courage versus the Watcher with an improvised weapon in our discard pile in order to kill it. And then we're good. Unless we draw an Elder Sign sooner than later. So we know what the plan is. 4 out of 6 doom. Turn 7, our encounter card is Rotting Remains. Uh-oh. Well, actually not too bad. We're a 5 versus 3. And we do have the deny existence, so if we do fail this badly, we can get out of it. Chaos Bag gives us the Elder thing, which is, I believe, a -2 right now. So we pass. So no problems there. We go back to the infestation test. We're probably going to get another infestation here. Yes, we are. So the emergency room will become infested. Maybe we infest that and then infest that later. No, it's fine. They tend to all get infested anyway, it seems to me, so I'm not too worried about it. Okay, and then since we have used all, we have drawn 2 of those things, these go all back into the deck to rinse and repeat. All right, it is our turn. Let's use were we going to do? We were going to... Oh, we were going to kill the Watcher. That was our plan. So we were going to use the violin. We just need one resource for the improvised weapon. So we'll take that out. Yeah, and then attacked enemy gets -1 fight. If you played improvised weapon from your discard pile, it gets +1 damage. Okay. So we're going to pitch the winging it with the violin. Let's draw a card. It is a last chance. Okay, that doesn't really help us all that much. So we're still going to go... we are going to fight. So we'll spend the resource to fight the Watcher. We will go Unexpected Courage. Oh, I feel like I should draw a card. Only 5 cards left. One of them is my weakness, though. One of them is my weakness. If I drew that, I'd have to discard it. I'd have to deal with that right away because I can't take a damage or I'm going to take more. What are we at? We'd be at 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 versus 4. Ooh. That's really not good. Or what we could do is we could do something with Deny Existence and Unexpected Courage first to free up the last chance for 3. Same difference, right? I feel like I need to draw a card. I need an overpower. I'm going to draw a card. There's an impromptu barrier. That doesn't do me any good. Yeah, this is a tough... we could also evade it, but our evasion is just as bad as... Yeah, impromptu barrier would help us evade this thing, but it doesn't do us any good. I'm going to risk it. I'm going to draw one more card. Okay, we get another Deny Existence. Okay, that's better than nothing. So we will try to deal with the Watcher now. So we're pitching 2 Deny Existence and an Unexpected Courage to go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 versus 4. Or we keep... if we fail, spawn it engaged with us, and then it would attack us the following turn. So the question... if we keep one of the Deny Existences, we are going 2, 3, 4, 5 versus 4. But if we fail, he spawns with us. And then we attack him. Oh, it's such a tough decision. No. Why am I trying to kill this guy? Why am I trying to kill this guy when I can evade him? That makes no sense. Okay, so we can go instead, if we evade the Watcher. So we would be going to, but we can use we can use a charge off mists to go 5 versus 5, and then we can go 6 versus 5. 7 versus 5, 8 versus 5, 9 versus 5. I like that a lot more. 9 versus 5. Chaos Bag says Skull. That is a -3. But that is fine. So we pass. And we get rid of the Watcher. So that was it took me a while to get there, but that was the better play. Okay. So we have gotten rid of the Watcher. Now, that was our turn. So after a bunch of... so we're going to lose these 3 cards, and then we're going to draw 3 and then reshuffle and take a horror. So we draw the improvised barrier, we draw a defiance, we draw the overpower was the last card. So we shuffle our discard pile back into our deck. We take a horror thanks to the reshuffle, and we draw 2 more cards, which is a desperate search and a manual dexterity. Okay. So we've got some skills now that we are turned on here. Our desperate strategy is on board. We've got a manual dexterity to ditch this guy, and then we can go try to find Randolph here. So turn 8, we have 5 of 6 doom. Our encounter card is Threads of Reality. Oh, this thing sucks. Oh, I've drawn this before. Attached to the non-permanent, non-weakness asset you control with the highest printed cost, otherwise it gains surge. Treat asset as though it was blank. So this blanks our key. So we'd have to discard an asset you control to discard the threads. Treat attached asset as printed text box were blank except for traits and forced abilities. So yeah, so we are down a bit, but we can actually discard the violin if we have to. The violin is not as important as the other cards in this set. Now we have to make an infestation test. And we get a cultist. So we are infesting on yet another location. That will be the experimental therapies ward. And it is our turn. So we really need to get rid of that threads. So we can just take the action. Let's use the violin first. We will use the violin to push the improvised weapon into the discard pile to draw a card. Oh, for Pete's sakes. It's the what? God, he's back. All right, well, he'll... Fine, okay. So we'll take an action to discard the violin to get rid of this thing. So our key is back online. We've got 2 actions left. Let's get rid of this chump. Suspicious Orderly will go for 5 versus 2, and let's call 5 versus 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's call Elder Thing because they're -4s. Chaos Bag says -2, so we pass. So he is evaded. And we draw a card, which is a Reckless Assault. Okay, well now would be the time to go after the Watcher, but we're not going to. Oh, with an Overpower and a Reckless Assault. Man, oh man. Oh, that's tempting. Because we could play Improvised Weapon and kill him right now. I think we've got to do it. We're not going to get a Reckless Assault Overpower hand again, so let's do that. We will play Improvised Weapon from our discard pile for 1 resource. And so he gets -1 fight, so he's a 4, and we're going to deal +1 damage. And so we are a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 versus 4. Chaos Bag says, auto fail. You've got to be kidding me. Once again, it has happened to me. Once again. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. How does this always happen to me? How does this always happen to me that I am trumping the Chaos Bag at 2, 4, 8 versus 4, and I draw an auto fail? I'd like to blame somebody for this, but... Well, that is going to change the game dramatically. So, after you play Improvised Weapon from your discard pile, if you do, shuffle it into your deck. So the Improvised Weapon goes back in here. Man, oh man. What is it about the auto fail and being on... Honestly, my luck is absolutely dreadful. I can't believe this. Okay, so now he's in play. He spawns engaged with me. I have to play this... I have to trigger the glimpse of the underworld now to get rid of this. Yeah, he becomes a regular enemy, so now I've got to try to kill him or just evade him. Wow. That could be potentially fatal. It very well could be fatal. Okay, I have to use a free triggered ability window during the investigation phase to get rid of this glimpse of the underworld. So I'm going to take a damage and a horror. So I'm not quite there. I've got one more before I lose my key. Wow. Just... yeah, not much I can do about that. That's just bad luck. Just bad luck. Which seems to follow me around like I don't know. I must have done something. I must have done something terrible to someone in a previous life. And if I did, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please take your bad juju away from me. So we're going to the enemy phase, and I get attacked for 3 damage. I cannot stand that very long. In fact, I cannot take that again. And yeah, that really changed the dynamic of this game radically. 1 pull from the Chaos Bag when there is only 1 token. How many tokens are in this Chaos Bag? 17 tokens. So what are the odds of that happening? I have to go look this up. This is driving me crazy. Let me see. Just give me a sec here while I pull up my Fancy Dan hypogeometric calculator. So we've got 17 tokens. And we had 1 success, 1 of those, and 1 of those. So we had a 5.88% chance. We had a 94% chance of success on that pull. 94%. And it came up short. There you go. 94%. That's why it was 4 up. 4 up, 94%. That should be guaranteed. So, nevertheless, let's go and discard this Desperate Search. And we will draw... we will go to the upkeep phase. And see if we can't pull ourselves out of this. There is a prophecy. Unfortunately, that is not going to do us any good because we are advancing this turn. Desperate Search, no help there. Sixth Sense, no help there. Say Your Prayers might help us with an evade and a last chance. So we get our friend the Orderly back. Yeah, the problem that now that this guy is on the table, I can't get rid of him that easily. I have to fight him. I have to wait and pick my moment to fight him. And this Suspicious Orderly is going to turn into a Crazed Orderly here. Right quick. Okay, so turn 9, we advance. Turn 9, hell breaks loose. It already broke loose. It broke loose last turn. I think that's hell has already broken loose. Suddenly, chaos breaks out in the hospital. The sound of chittering and crashing emerges from the walls. In the darkness, you can barely make out the shapes of bizarre spider-like creatures scurrying in the distance. As you round a corner, you spot an orderly writhing on a polished floor, convulsing violently as though possessed by an insidious force. You rush to his side and flip him onto his back, and find that nearly all of his face is covered in thick webbing, and his eyes are wide and glazed over. He does not react as you shake him. So we find each suspicious orderly enemy in play and replace it with a set-aside corrupted orderly enemy. So you go there. We search the encounter deck and discard pile for each copy of Suspicious Orderly and remove them from the game. So let's go find... there's one there. I think that's it. There's only 2 of them. Yep. Okay. Then we Shuffle the set-aside agents of Atlak Nacha and counter-set each remaining set-aside corrupted orderly enemy and the encounter discard pile into the encounter deck. So you go into the discard pile. You go in there. Where's my Atlak Nacha people? Right here. So these more bad boys get shuffled in. And is that it? Search the encounter deck. We did that. We shuffled that. We have to add a skull and a cultist token to the infestation bag. So skull and a cultist. We have done everything. All right. Agenda 3A, Hospital of Horrors. The entire building has become infested with a sinister evil, something that does not follow the laws of nature. You need to find some way to either stop it or to escape before it consumes you too. At the end of the Mythos phase, make an infestation test. Each spider enemy at an infested location gets +1 fight, evade, and +1 evade. These guys are spiders. So, but we are not at an infested location, fortunately. So we are in a heap of trouble here. We need to draw an encounter card first, which is going to be Dissonant Voices. No assets or events for me. That's fine, because all I have are skills. We need to make an infestation test, which is going to be a skull. That is going to be... we are going to be infested. Spider enemy and draw it at an infested location nearest an investigator. So that is at the experimental lab. And we're going to lose 2 cards from our deck too. So that goes there. Make sure I hit the right button this time so I don't know what these cards are. Too bad it's not the Watcher. Okay, so we send those to the back and away we go. So this gets dumped in there and we continue. Well, turn 7, or turn 8, sorry, was so dramatic that it changed the game so dramatically that I'm not sure how turn 9 can top it. Turn 9 could potentially kill us, though, so that's something. Now, how do we get out of this mess? Do we have... We don't have another improvised weapon. We would be fine if this guy was dead. But now... God, it's a 5 evade. I've got to say your prayers. That's about all I can do. Okay, first action, we'll say our prayers. And use a mists and hopefully evade this guy. So we're going to go 9 versus 5. Chaos Bag says Elder Thing. That is going to be awfully close. 1, 2, 3, 4. 9 versus 5. So that's a -4. So we just passed that. So he is evaded for a turn. The problem is we don't really have anywhere to run. We don't have anywhere to run, because if we start running away, this sucker's got Hunter, so it's going to chase, and unless we can be there and evade it, it just kills us straight off. Unless we see Peter, and even then, that's not going to be really enough to save us. So we've also got to deal with this guy. He's +1 because of this. So he's actually, I'm just going to mark him because he's got three of each. So he's a 3/2/3. Man, I don't want to use that last. I have just that one charge on mists. I can last chance it for 2. But that only gets me 4/3. Without the... Yeah, we'll do it. We'll go 4 versus 3. I just don't think we're going to draw another mists in time, and even if we do, it's going to be tough. 4 versus 3. I don't think we really have... Chaos Bag says 0. Okay, so after dicking us around in the last turn, the Chaos Bag has decided to take its foot off our throat for a change, which is nice. And so that cost us an action. Now we can get the hell out of here. But we've got to guess right. And even then, like, we need to draw a phenomenal hand to kill that thing. Like, we need an improvised weapon, which we don't have. And a reckless assault and an overpower, which we don't have either. Or a shriveling. Shriveling would help too. Do I move away? Are they both? They're both hunters. I feel like just moving away doesn't solve our problems. Because if I move away, I have no actions left. I sit there. They ready. Next turn I get 5 cards, and then I have to move back and then evade twice. So I stay put. But what do I do? I can't play assets or events. I take a resource? I guess. It's really kind of the only thing I can do that... Because I can't leave these two behind. I have to deal with them somehow, or at least deal with this guy, because this guy's just going to kill me straight out. Well... So we'll discard these cards. We need a real... There's an improvised weapon. So we get these back. There's a winging it, an impromptu barrier, a fearless, and a defiance. That is not the hand we need in order to keep this game on the rails. It would be great to be able to play impromptu barrier from my discard pile. Because then I could evade both of them. But I don't have the cards for it. I've got no icons, no icons, no icons. I've got two... It's incredibly ironic that I have all of the desperate skills in this deck with 4 icons apiece, and then I draw a hand. 3 of the cards have no icons. So I've got one willpower and 1 wild icon to work with next turn. Holy crap, this game just... Thought I was doing pretty well. Now it's all... I think we're pretty much done. Turn 10, Mythos phase. We will go... our encounter card is going to be a Frozen in Fear. Oh man, that just... so move, fight, or evade is going to cost me an additional action, so I can only evade one of these guys. And... no, I can evade. I can still evade both if I'm lucky enough. And we do an infestation test. So we could get... If we draw a skull, we get... what would be bad? Bad would be cultist. Cultists infest the stairwell, which causes another infestation test, which potentially calls another skull, which brings us 3 spiders, and then, yeah, we are in deep, deep shit. So we get a tablet, so nothing happens. But nothing happening is, we need to survive this turn somehow. So we've got no choice. We've got to use the shriveling. Sorry. We've got to use the last counter on mists in order to break this. We are going 5 versus 5. 6 versus 5, 7 versus 5. Yeah, I've completely missed all of the mists. I've probably missed a bunch of these discard card from your hand, but I think I've always had cards in my hand to discard, so I don't think it would matter in the end. Yeah. 7-5. That's all we can do. Chaos Bag gives us a 0. We live, you get 1 more turn. So that took 2 actions. Oh, I could have called a token too. And I heal a horror. That's okay. Now... I guess we could play the impromptu barrier. To make him a 2, but then we're just going 2-2. Oh, I should have... Yeah, I could have done this the other way around. Shoot. Oh, no. No. I couldn't have. Okay, that's fine. I thought I had made a huge mistake there, and I could have tried to evade the corrupted orderly and then evaded this guy, but this needs to be played from the discard pile. So it's an option next turn. So let's play impromptu barrier. We will give the chosen enemy -1, so he is a 2 instead of a 3. And we have nothing else we can do. Chaos Bag says -1, so that is going to be a failure. And oh, that would have, yeah, lucky we did that. Okay, so otherwise we would have triggered. We healed that horror, so we won't. We're not going to lose our key, fortunately. End of our turn, we get to test for Frozen in Fear. So we're 5 versus 3. Chaos Bag says -2, so we lose the Frozen in Fear. And we go to the enemy phase. We take a damage and a horror. We're still in this for the moment. This turn could be the end, though. We get an Unexpected Courage, Guts, Run for Your Life, Prophecy, and an Improvised Weapon. We'd be going 2 up. So what are our odds now? We have... we'd be going 4, 5, 6, 7. Sorry, we'd be 2. Okay, sorry, I need to talk this through here. Okay, so the Watcher, if we play an improvised weapon from our discard pile, he'd be a 4. We would be a 4/5 is the best we can do right now to kill him. But we're all, we could go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We can play impromptu barrier from the discard pile to evade the orderly and evade the Watcher. We're basically just trying to hang on long enough that we're just trying to hang on long enough that we can kill the Watcher, but that's going to be very difficult to do without the right combination of cards. Turn 11. Our encounter card is Sickening Web. Well, we're not going anywhere now. There are sickening webs in the stairwell, so that's going to... Each spider enemy at attached location gains Retaliate and Alert, so we cannot... and we can't move, so we weren't going anywhere anyway. And we have to do an infestation test, which is going to be... Tablet. Again, nothing happens. All right. Let me look at impromptu barrier. So we play it from the discard pile. Chosen enemy gets -1 evade. And then you may evade an additional enemy at same location with evade of X or lower, while X is where, oh, the amount you succeed by. Oh, that's no good. But we can still try. We can still try it. So we go... We'll play Impromptu Barrier from our discard pile to evade the Watcher. So it'll be a 4. And we're a 2. So we play Run for Your Life to go to 6. We play Unexpected Courage to go to 8. And we play the Prophecy to go to 9. 9 versus 4. And if we succeed by 3, we evade the Corrupted Orderly as well. Chaos Bag says -4. 9 versus 4, and we draw a -4. So we evade the Watcher. But we do not evade. We do not do enough to evade the Orderly. You'd think 9 versus 4. We'd need to get a -2. Yeah, that's not unreasonable. So all those go away. This actually gets shuffled back into our deck. Okay, so now we're dealing with this chump, and he is still going to attack us, and he's got Alert and Hunter now. I guess I could try to... I guess I could just try to kill him with an improvised weapon. He'd be a 2, I'd be a 2. Yeah, those odds suck. Yeah, I think I'm trying to dig myself out of this hole that the Chaos Bag threw me into, but I do not think I am able to do it. I will not be able to do it. I'm simply spinning my wheels here, not getting very far with much of anything at the moment. If I try to if I try to fight this guy and fail, then I end up dying. I won't be dead, but I'll take a death. Yeah, I would be dead. I would die this turn. But I can't draw cards. I can't gain resources. I would just lose 2 actions and then get hit anyway. So let's go out in a blaze of glory. We might as well. So we will play the improvised weapon from our discard pile. And so that's going to cost us a resource. And fight, the attacking enemy gets -1 fight for this attack, and we get +1 damage. So it's a 2. So we're going 2 versus 2. He has retaliate, so he'll hit me, and then he'll hit me again, and that will be game. So here we go. This is all for all the marbles on turn 11. 2 versus 2. Chaos Bag says... that's a big failure. That's an elder thing. That's -X. X is the number of infested locations. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. So that's -4. So he hits me for a damage and a horror. And then during the... and then... yeah, I can't. He's got alert and retaliate, so it doesn't matter what I do. I'll just pass my action and I'll die during the enemy phase. Oh, that's heartbreaking. That's a tough loss. Considering the whole loss is that one pull from the Chaos Bag. That one pull was what killed us. Oh, that's so disappointing. She was doing so well, too. How many VPs do we get? 2, 3. Wow, that's pathetic for this campaign. Three victory points is not good for this particular campaign. What turn are we on? Turn 11, and we're gonna take mental or physical trauma. We're already taking. Let's take a physical trauma. So, yeah. What to say? Well, I reiterate that I like this scenario a lot. I really like this scenario. I think it's very well designed. I feel like this game hinged on that one pull from the Chaos Bag. I think I was doing pretty, like, when you've got an overpower and a reckless assault in your hand and an improvised weapon in your discard pile, I think you've got to go for it and try to kill the Watcher. I don't think that was the wrong play, and that ended up the tentacle brought him out into the real world, and then of course trying to deal with him there is exceptionally difficult, especially when we advanced to 3A and this corrupted orderly showed up as well. If this guy is dead, then we can deal with this guy, and it's a totally different game. But unfortunately, this is one of those cases where Patrice's weakness really came back to bite her in the ass, and ended up causing the loss. So that is going to do it for this playthrough of Waking Nightmare. I was hoping to put up a better result, but the Chaos Bag had other ideas. Make sure that if you're a patron of the channel, stay tuned for the Patreon post-game show, where I take a little bit of a closer look at the scenario and give you my thoughts on the game. Obviously, my thoughts are pretty disappointed at this point, but hey, you win some, you lose some. This one was, unfortunately, the Chaos Bag had other ideas, so we will suck it up, and we will try to do better in a Thousand Shapes of Horror. We'll see if Patrice can't do a little bit better in that particular scenario. Thanks, everyone, very much for tuning in. Your comments and whatnot is always appreciated, so leave them down in the comment section down below, and I do my best to reply to them. And yeah, patrons, stay tuned for the Patreon post-game show, and I will see you all next time with more great Arkham Horror LCG content. Thanks for tuning in. That's going to do it for this episode. If you enjoy what you hear, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. If you need to contact me, I can be reached at manfromleng@gmail.com. I'm also on Twitter at manfromleng. Until the stars are right, keep your shotgun close and your other sign closer. Take care out there, and happy investigating.